And that's a big part of it, is educating. Like I said it, and you just said it. When we say yoga, it's really just a foundational word, but what we really mean is physical movement every day. And some of the things that Carol was alluding to when you get into the healthcare setting in my office is really paying attention to what I like to call like the clinical gems, right? Everyone wants to know how to do it
Golden
and
nuggets.
what do I do? But and it's all about starting. First is you got to start. You got to take what I'm telling you and actually process it and go do it, right?
Mhm.
So, I tell you yoga, oh, I don't really like yoga, or I tried it before, I'm not good at it. And I say,
Well, I
well,
can't meditate. I can't stay
yeah,
quiet.
no way. Of course,
Takes
because if
practice.
if you were good at it, I wouldn't have to tell you, and you wouldn't have that pain.
Right? You would
Right?
be an expert
So
already. You'd be telling
exactly.
them.
Right. So, sometimes it's just a matter of saying, okay, Carol, what we're going to do today in the office is we're going to take your phone out and we're going to put an alarm on for 7:15 every day. And at 7:15 every day, you're going to have an annoying alarm that says yoga. And maybe day 1, 2, and 3, you don't even do it. But by
Right.
day 4, 7:15 is coming. You're going to hear that alarm and you're like, all right, let me just sit down on the floor and Google what he was talking about. And by
Mhm.
day 7, you actually started. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to educate people on how to start, which sounds kind of crazy, but that's
We
what
come
that's
from a
the type of
society
health.
of instant gratification, and it's kind of
Right.
lead me into my next,
Well,
pivot into the next
yeah,
question,
go
but
ahead.
continue. I'm sorry.
So one of the last points that I wanted to make around the general topic was really
Mhm.
normalizing what we're talking about. All of this stuff for a lot of people sounds so strange, and it's
Mhm.
because of how we were brought up. This is one topic that's going to cross all the check marks of everything we talked about so far. How many
Right.
men don't go to the doctor? How many minority men
Mhm.
don't get their blood pressure checked? How many minority men will not get a prostate exam
Men of
just
color have
because
the highest rate of suicide.
it's not normal for us and it's considered weird? So we have to normalize these practices through our practice here.
Mhm.
People won't admit they have PTSD until they sit in a room with a bunch of patients that they don't know. And we can be very casual about important conversations in my office, and it's super intentional because we got four
I'll
people up
talk to you
front.
about relationships. Oh my God.
Right. And three of them won't admit that they are effed up, right? But
Hmm.
it takes the one person in the room to be like, nah, I'm A, B, and C, and so are you. Don't pretend like you're not.
Hmm.
And that's what it comes down to. It through running the medical marijuana program in my office, we've had to explain to people, yes, you do have PTSD. Fill out this paperwork, and after you're done, tell me you don't.
Hmm.
And then they fill it out, and they're like, oh my God, I haven't
Paper
even
don't
thought about
lie.
this since
Pure
since
answers.
this
They
day.
don't lie.
Exactly. It's not my life. I didn't. You
Mhm.
wrote it down. You know what
Right.
I mean? So people need to normalize these concepts in order for them to actually address them, and that's a big important reason why we operate the practice the way we do.
Yeah. That lived experience that you just shared about, because you put yourself first and then you put the patient into the mix. It's what I do too, you know.
Mm,
It's when I tap in, I don't tap in immediately about my lived experience and what I
mm,
do personally, but when I hear something that they're struggling with, then I might tap in with that, yeah, I've experienced this too.
mm,
I had my doubts about this
absolutely.
too, even as being a recovery coach or a practitioner, a chiropractor, or whatever.
For
You know,
sure.
I think that is what makes this healthcare system very unique. It's not that I didn't want, I really didn't want to wear a hat as a clinician. One, because I wanted to utilize my lived experience as a means to making that connection. And that's what you do, Dr. Noel. You make that connection with people on such a different level. You call them forward versus calling them out.
Mm,
Those answers on that paper are theirs.
yeah.
That's not a lie. That's them probably being honest with themselves for the first time ever, because
Yes.
someone
Yes.
reached into them,
I have
saw
seen the
them,
aha
and
moment
said, "How can I help?
many
This is how
times.
I can help. These are the 3 points in which we can look
Mm,
at mind, body, and spirit, but we might not take them on all at the same time." Right? We're
yeah.
gonna we're gonna meet you where you're at so that we can guide you into, because that's what we are. We're guides. Yes, we
Mm,
do our, you do your physical and your emotional and mental practice, But at the same time, we're guides. We're guiding people into making changes, making pivots. You mentioned like to use cannabis as a means versus medical marijuana. Yeah, there's a whole lot, there's a lot of
Oh, yeah. Of course,
racial tension and
uh,
history behind that. That's for
in
another
Connecticut, it's
episode.
called the medical marijuana
Yes.
program, so I stick within that. But my feeling.
Absolutely, because that's what the state, has
Mm,
legalized it under, and I
right, right,
completely
right.
understand, when I'm in certain groups, and they're putting it down, then I can make that correction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Because
But when
it's
we're
not
doing, we
about,
have to stick
for me, it's
within.
about harm reduction, right? So
Yes, yes.
when I had be educated, and it was before, I think before around the time when I met you, but I don't think you were
No, we were continuing.
certified
I
at
didn't
that
hear you
time
say we were
in the
we were
practice.
talking about this for
We're
you too,
talking
because
about it,
you were like
right?
the
Because
largest
my
proponent.
because someone I knew close to me, I won't mention their name, was on medical marijuana, and it was actually changed the whole trajectory. This was a person that was on a tremendous amount of class one drugs, right?
Yep.
And they weren't always effective. And we've seen, how cannabis has really changed not only uh, the wellness, how people look at wellness, whether it's
Yeah.
cancer or physical pain, and you'll address a lot of that. It is also it uh, there's still a lot of stigma around it, but it
Mhm.
has opened up the conversation where people are feeling more safe. I understand, the concern of children getting a hold of it. I'm right there to advocate. I feel unless they're diagnosed specifically, you don't leave it hanging around. It's just like any other drug, that
Regulated
you just
substance.
don't
Yeah.
want the wrong people to get. So, what supports and pain management have you initiated in your practice around medical management, medical marijuana management or treatment?
So say that again. What's like
What what
adjunctive
what
and including this
supports have you
program? Yeah.
provided in the pain management end,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
any
So
part of how you
yeah, for
practice?
sure.
Yeah.
So as we're mentioning, one of the big parts that we added to the practice was medical marijuana certification. I'm a chiropractor. I don't prescribe medication, so
Right.
I don't personally do it. It's something that I integrated into my business model. Why? I'll be honest. Some probably like a left field topic you hadn't even really considered. I'm a minority male from an inner city. You know how many
Mhm.
friends and family members I know who've been incarcerated, short and long term, over marijuana?
Yeah.
The reason I did it immediately was just for legal protection for my community.
Mhm.
Point blank. I never even hid that fact. Like, this is a legal alternative to one of
Mhm.
the most harmful, because let's be honest, right? We're at a point where we can say it. There's so many people who are unjustly incarcerated over marijuana for something that corporations are getting absolutely filthy
Big
rich over
dollars.
right
Big
now.
dollars. Mhm.
That to me was the most important factor. And then the
Mhm.
second was I'm pretty much a lifelong cannabis user, so I've seen the value. I'm an example of cannabis use does not make you a lazy stoner. That is a very old, antiquated stigma.
Mhm.
That is the effects that some people do feel, yes, but your motivation is a personal issue and has nothing to do with marijuana use in many, many cases. Not all, but many
Mhm.
cases. So those stigmas are still extremely important when addressing these issues. And as you already stated, we can all again admit now that this country is still in a prescription medicine crisis,
Mhm.
and there's so much research for so many years that cannabis is the answer for so many clinical issues,
Mhm.
that we have finally been able to normalize it. Again, that same idea, normalizing medical alternatives.
Yes. Yeah.
Chiropractic is called a complementary and alternative medical practice.
Integrated.
So again, this was a natural integration of a service that was
Mhm.
needed by the community, was legally and medically available, and just made complete sense, right? That's
Yeah.
not to say that cannabis use is good for everybody, but for many people it is. One
Mhm.
of the things I was going to say before about the fourth point about chiropractic is that chiropractic is for everybody. Everyone could use a chiropractor. That's
Mhm.
just the point. I don't know a single person on earth who couldn't use a chiropractic treatment. Um, and along with that is chiropractic is not just adjusting. A lot of people think a chiropractic is just what you see on the videos, is getting your bones cracked and it looks scary and all that. We do
Mhm.
so much more. And that's
Mhm.
almost like a whole nother podcast to tell you just specifically what
Yeah.
chiropractic is and does. But Carol will attest that we do so much more than just adjusting your body. And that's
It's a
important to
family.
know.
I feel it every time I walk through the door, and you moved your office from
Yeah.
where I first met you. Every time I walk through the door, even when I've seen your aunt there, and her and I
Mm,
have had conversations, um, I definitely feel like it's family. I feel that you fill my cup. I walk out of there usually
yeah.
never disappointed, never
Mm,
feeling ouch, I'm hurt, yeah, I'm a little sore. I make sure that I rest. It is, adjustments are again, it's not just adjustments, but they are, a physical
it's a
changing and
physical
shifting of your
treatment.
body. So you should rest. That's for me, I was like, it was a no-brainer. I rest. I make sure that I rest. Or I schedule my appointments where I know that I'm not going to be doing anything heavy lifting or mind stuff, that day. Uh,
Yeah.
something
So let
else.
me,
Go
just
ahead.
to cut you off. So again, just full circle is you can't address pain without addressing the cause. And
Hmm.
so the cause is different for everyone. And just like medical marijuana, equally important is um, the behavioral health, whether you do it here or not, but
Hmm.
addressing your behavioral health issues because, you know, everyone knows you hold tension in places in your body, but some people
Hmm.
don't know that the entire reason, 100% of the reason you feel pain, headache, or whatever in a specific area is because of your mental status.
Right.
Or even if it's just 90, even if it's just 20,
Yeah.
the adjustments are only going to get you 80% better until you address the other 20. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that even larger percentages of their physical manifestations and symptoms come from their brain. And
Yes.
so normalizing the idea that it's okay to work on your brain, it's okay to feel crazy. Everyone does. Not everyone admits it, but it's okay to have this feeling, that feeling, whatever the case may be. Even
Mhm.
your reactions, right? You can't control your reactions until you know why you react that way. So
Right.
full circle, pain management has to be your brain, your body, and your soul, or else you're not gonna reach your potential.
Yeah. What do you say to somebody? And I've had a few friends, they say, oh, you seem different. You seem more relaxed.
Mm,
And I say, I go to a chiropractor and I have a really good therapist, just to balance that out.
mm,
And I also indulge in other things that are health and wellness, right? And they'll say, "Oh, I'll never go to a chiropractor again." I went to somebody and I walked out there with more pain, or I've had
right.
back surgery and I don't trust any physician to work on my
Mhm.
back because the surgery sucked. It
Or
did.
even furthermore, the surgeon
So, what
told
would you
me to
say to
never
somebody
see a
though that
chiropractor.
has those doubts, has
Yeah.
those doubts about chiropractic medicine?
Yeah, so I'll even up the ante on that a little bit. Is there's a lot of people who will come and say, "Well, this person, my husband, my doctor, my surgeon told me to never go to a chiropractor." So you're not gonna convert everyone. You're not gonna convince everyone the value, but it's a slow process. It's like, well, why did they say this, or what did that guy do that you think caused more pain than alleviate pain? And then, as I started to allude, is that I have to break it down into chewable parts, which is like, well, I could give you an entire treatment and not adjust you at all, right? And they're like, oh, well, what are you talking about? How would that even help? Well, listen, getting on the machine, getting the heat, doing the stretching, doing the manual therapy,
It's
ischemic
great.
release,
Great.
stretching, right? So
Cupping,
once,
cupping. That was
yeah,
something new I tried
exactly.
this year. Yeah,
Exactly.
loved it.
So It's all exactly where I started with, and the only way to convince people is to educate them. And it
Mhm.
seems like it's getting harder and harder these days to educate people on things that they don't know or they don't want to know. But
They'll look it up on the internet and they think they're an expert in all of things.
right,
Right.
right. So you got sometimes you just got to chip away, just
Mhm.
one visit at a time. Hey, listen, just bring your wife with you for your next visit. Let her see first, see if, see how she feels about it after, she sees what we do here. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, my husband really needs this, but he's not gonna come. All right, well, let me help you convince him why he should come. You know what I mean? So it's really, again, it's education, point blank. The only way to convert, to make somebody a believer is to educate them.
Gotta believe, gotta believe. And some people, again, it takes practice, it takes time, it takes
Right.
patience. All of the things
Hmm.
that we're taught in our professions, meeting that person where they're at,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
trying to eliminate, hey, if now is not the time,
Yeah. I
years
mean, I even
ago,
see that.
I
I
went
even
to a
see that
physician. I
with
didn't go to a
patients that I have now.
chiropractor. Yeah.
Mm,
It took somebody from church to tell me,
yes.
hey, you know what? Try out this, chiropractor that I work for. You might find a difference. You might find that it's going to be helpful. And I've been going over 20 years on and
Yeah,
off to
yeah,
a chiropractor. Yeah.
yeah. It's
And
great.
you've been mine. So I,
Mhm.
I feel really special again having you here today. Just have a
Yeah,
couple
same.
more
Vice
questions and
versa.
we're going to
Yeah,
wrap it
yeah,
up. Okay.
yeah. No problem.
This is the edge moments, right? So this is kind of where hopefully you can be a little bit more vulnerable, and you have been through this whole conversation. So I really appreciate it, and I think our viewers are going to appreciate all this information. And I'm also going to send out your information for our locals here in Connecticut, or if you're traveling into Connecticut, and you're having some back issues or you're having just, alignment issues, hey, please check in with Dr. Noel. Uh,
Mhm.
he's there for you. Was there a moment when your personal health focused you to change the direction in your professional life?
Yeah, I
Moment?
actually kind of alluded to it as well,
Mhm.
which was, you know, again, I'm probably exactly 14 years into business, and I even remember these moments in my education. Burnout is super real. Like, burnout it encompasses a lot of different things. It can be just mental, it can be physical, it can be both. People suffer burnout in a way sometimes that they end up in the hospital with physical symptoms, but ultimately, um maybe within like the last 3 years, personally, just admitting that I can't be all things for myself, for my patients, for my family. It's really hard to meet certain responsibilities and checkpoints. And at some point, I had to learn how to give myself a break, give myself some grace, give myself some forgiveness, right? And I
Mhm.
could say, like, I hadn't even been to a therapy session in maybe 10 years, and last year, I took the time. I said, "Hey, listen, I can't help anyone else from this empty cup," and I normalized myself the whole empty cup idea. Hey,
Mhm.
listen, you asked for it. You opened the business. You went to school. You put all this effort in. You wanted everybody in the doors. You want to help everybody. So this is on you. And then eventually, you're just like,
Holding
well,
yourself accountable.
uh-huh. So
Yeah.
what am I actually gonna do? Am I actually gonna keep joking when it comes to nutrition? Do as I say, not as I do. You know what I mean? Am I actually gonna take control over my weight? Because I'm just like anybody else, right? I'm human. That's another thing that I wanted to express that I hadn't gotten a chance to just yet. One of the things that I wanted to intentionally be was relatable, right? How many doctors have you met that don't even seem like they have a personality? They literally don't have a personality.
It's
They're a
out in
robot
and
in
out,
an office who just do one
10
function,
minutes.
right?
Not even.
And people say, they'll give me the comment, oh, well, this is so refreshing. It was like, well, how can I be an effective doctor and not be an effective human, right? We're
Mhm.
humans and we have to own it. We are humans first. So going to a doctor's office where you feel like you're dealing with a human is super important. And that's a very, concerted effort that we put here. with that said,
Not an
uh,
AI bot that I got
right,
called out with a
for,
member the
for
other
that, you
day.
might as well
Are you
just
an AI? Are you
might as
real?
well just look on WebMD and get one of those apps on your phone where you can get any doctor in the world at any time to get a prescription, which some people are happy with that, but that's not really how it should work.
Yeah,
So I would
you're
say
hands-on. Yeah,
last year, I just made the decision to go back to behavioral health therapy for myself, right?
I love
Like,
it.
how is it that I'm like doing this for everyone else and I'm not taking the time to do it for myself?
Mhm.
And I'm so much more comfortable with my ability to deal with the responsibility and hardship because owning a business is straight hardship. Don't own a business if you want an easy life, right? Um, so just really refocusing my energy, and I have the same things that I have to work on. I do have to eat better. I do have to do more stretching, but doing those three things, like purposefully taking the time every day to take some rest, to make some movement, and to at least think about what I'm putting in my body has definitely made me more effective. It doesn't negate your responsibilities, it doesn't make life any tougher. It just makes it so that you're preparing yourself for the daily battle, you know?
I love that. What I hear is it's an investment in your health
Hmm.
and wellness
Right.
to gain wealth, right? So wealth can be described in so many different facets, but in the
Right.
sense that as a business owner, I have to be all things to myself first before I
Yeah.
can work on my patients, before even I address
We
my
lose track of
family.
that so quickly. It's so
I have to
easy.
make that investment. And that's what
Hmm.
it is. If I want my business to be successful, and this is where I'm at, right where I am right now. Making small investments, but I'm also making sure that I'm taking care of myself along the journey. Like I had therapy this morning before we got on, because again, it's continual investment. It's a continual cycle because I've been through those vicious toxic cycles of addiction, bad relationships, bad jobs, bad physicians, and I say bad in the most honest way because they
Right.
didn't fit for me. They didn't fit me. If I started going to you, and I know there was a gap where I stopped going to you and I did go to someone else, and I found that, what, that person wasn't for me. And I was there almost for 2 years, but the communication wasn't the same, right? And so I said, you know what, I know Dr. Noel. I'm gonna reach out. I'm in a different place in my life right now. And yeah, and I'm so glad I made that decision.
Hmm.
And I know for a lot of us, it is hard to find that primary care physician, to find that behavioral health physician or clinician or psychiatrist. Sometimes we get those referrals from somebody we know, so I'm
Yeah.
always, if
Right.
somebody says to me, hey, they're having problems with this, that, and the other, I said, hey, if you're within this area, check out Dr. Noel.
Yeah, and that circles back to the last question that you asked was,
Hmm.
how do you kind of address people who either have a stigma or uneducated or whatever about my specific profession? Is not to minimalize it, but it's like, just because you get a bad haircut, are you going to stop getting your haircut for the rest of your life?
Mm,
That doesn't make any sense. So just because you had one bad experience with a particular profession or treatment style doesn't mean you shouldn't try someone else who's better.
which
Even
you referred me to
back
a hair to a barber, because I was in
right,
need of a barber, and I would love to go back to
right.
him. It's just that it hasn't been convenient to me, so I
Yeah,
go
but
to
that's
someone
how,
else
but
local.
so that's how it works. Is it's like if at some point, and I'm not trying to convince somebody just as a matter of conversation. We're talking about someone who is in need. So if you're asking, then you need it. You're
Right,
just looking for the right fit.
right. Right.
Hmm.
And people should, especially if whether it's coming from Medicaid, being billed, or it's coming out of pocket, like we should. Again, it's an investment. And if you want a return, and you want good results, you want better results than when you started, and you got to be patient, right? It's not a one and done. It's not going to happen overnight. That's recovery, wellness, everything, well-being, all of those things wrapped up into one.
And you should evaluate your healthcare providers in
Mhm,
that same light, right?
mhm,
So behavioral health. Whether you're male or female, some people would prefer to talk to someone of the same gender. Some people would prefer to talk to someone of the opposite gender. Same goes for
And it's
massage.
so great that we
Same
have that
for
choice today.
gynecologist. Same
Mhm,
goes for your primary care doctor. There's
mhm,
nothing wrong with that. Remember that healthcare is a choice, right? It's not, I have to go to my doctor and I have to do what this doctor says. You need to see and seek healthcare providers who are using their science and their skill set in a way that suits you perfectly.
right. And if you're young and you're watching this podcast and you want to get into the medical field, but you're not sure, Dr. Noel said it in early in the beginning, kind of researched different areas of what he wanted to do, to
Mm,
practice in. I think some of that time as a young person going to college, I believe I went to college later in life, so I made
mm,
my own choices. I didn't have somebody dictating it, but we have to break free from that. And
right.
because you don't want to start something and then find out 20 years later you hate it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And
And
be
I've
afraid.
been in
This
that
goes
place.
back to
I
this
started
goes back
something
to
and I didn't finish it because
yeah,
it wasn't made for me.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, I went through my entire undergrad career, pre-med bio, uh chemistry minor, and I graduated and I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be a doctor, right? So that was important. I had a goal and I knew what the end goal was, but I just didn't know the path that it was going to take to get there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't totally clueless, and that's also important. Goals don't always have to be A through F. And when I'm done, if I didn't do A through F, it didn't work. Your goal is to get to F or Z. Sometimes you're going to go to H first, then
Sometimes
C,
you take a
then
couple steps
F.
back and then you
Yeah,
go forward. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So as
Got to
long
see
as
it
you
in a
keep
different
getting
view.
and you keep your end goal, you can't be afraid of the change. And unfortunately, I don't know if this was a statistic a while ago, but the average American changes career 7 times,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
So
about me.
you may go to school
I've weared
and
many
have a
hats.
20-year career, and then that changes. But
Mhm,
if you kept your goal,
mhm.
you were successful in what you did, and you're prepared for the change in a way that's not going to negatively affect you and your family, that's okay. Trust me, if in 5 years I end up building cars and motorcycles and I don't see another patient, I will be wildly happy as long as it still pays me the same.
I want to be a no woman, like in my little trailer, traveling the
uh,
country, doing my podcast. Like that
in
is
a
my
in a
ultimate
movable
dream.
tiny house.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm going to be retiring hopefully in the next couple years and just doing this full time.
Right.
Yeah. I think again, this is not getting away from chiropractic talk that we've been talking, your practice that we've been talking about. I think it again, it brings in that whole health piece, right? It
Mhm.
is, um, I feel that in the last few years, at 62, going on 63 in a few months, I have been able to fulfill a lot of the gaps that I thought I would never. One
Mhm.
being still in recovery at 31 years old,
Yeah.
still looking
31 years.
good.
Yeah. I agree.
Still looking good.
Look
I
good.
posted a
Look
picture
good.
the other day, and everybody's
Feeling
like,
good.
I haven't gotten that much response even on
No,
my birthday on
don't
social
forget.
media.
Don't
They're
forget.
like, girl, you look good. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
We almost married you off a couple visits ago in the front. Remember?
I know that. And that was me. That was me. But see that again, I think we've shrunk ourselves. And I was sharing this with my therapist. And I know I'm
Mhm.
taking a little extra time here,
No,
but
it's okay.
I think the message that we're both trying to share is to get to the place of being our authentic self and knowing who we are. This is part of the practice, right? Whether it's spiritual, meditation, prayer, exercise, yoga, walking, adjustments, making sure you're getting your checkup from the neck up, whatever it takes
Yeah, for
is
sure.
what got
And
you
that looks
and
different.
I where we're
That
at
looks
today. So we are a success, right? We are a success. We're the epitome of success. It may not show up in our checkbook and our bank accounts. I know it doesn't in mine at this time. But that's okay. You know, there's more hope for me of the future where, you know, not too long ago, I was like, oof, I was closed off. I didn't want to have anything to, and this is way after COVID. I didn't want to have
Yeah,
anything to do with anybody, not
you're
including
correct.
myself. And that's
You're
scary. That's
you're
scary to
correct.
be in a place of you know what to do, but you're so paralyzed by the trauma, the betrayal, the disappointments, even the disappointment of making promises to myself that I wasn't keeping.
Yes, yes.
So I had to
Self-forgiveness.
pivot and I had to
Yeah.
change the
Self-forgiveness
narrative.
is a big part of self-care.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For
Yeah.
sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Noel. I always call you Noel.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Carmen for Wednesdays are your administrative
Paperwork.
days. So
Yeah.
that's why we were able to record here on Wednesdays. I hope that everyone walks away with a deeper understanding of how the body and the mind works and how they align physically, emotionally, spiritually. um, yeah, is there just like a last couple words that
Yeah,
you wanted to share?
concerning, yes, especially specific about this topic is, if you're not lucky enough to find a practice like mine,
Hmm.
um, just do your research to still address those issues in different places. Take your time, read reviews, call the offices that you have interest in. I think like people sometimes they spend more time finding the perfect barber than the perfect doctor, and I think they should really, think about put the same effort you have and the same standard you have for your haircut as your
Hmm.
medical doctors, and you won't regret it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So, where can folks find you? And I also will post it in the podcast description. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, absolutely. In the description, you'll see the correct spelling of my name. So on pretty much all social media platform, you'll be able to directly communicate with me with just my name. PHS Cairo, PHSCHIRO is the website and our social media. So that's also easy to find. Once you get to our website, you can book online. So that makes getting a hold of us easy. And our phone lines, we do use a phone service. So, you know, it seems a little old school,
Patient.
but yeah, yeah.
Miss Carmen,
You got
she will contact
yeah,
you
you
back.
gotta use it. You gotta use it effectively. You call, you speak to our phone service. Our phone service explains to you if you're trying to get a hold of us, contact this number. If you're trying to leave a message and we'll get back to you. People forget that running a business requires a lot of attention, individual attention to each individual. So you have to the art of leaving a message and phone communication is starting to die with all the technology. People are so used to being able to message a business, to text message an owner, or
Yeah.
to get
To get instant gratification, like I mentioned earlier.
right, right. So
Mhm.
imagine if you're in the office with me, right, and I'm treating you, Carol will tell you, I'm not on my cell phone scheduling a patient
He's
with
running
another
back and forth
patient.
between offices. I can
Right.
hear him in the other room.
Right. And with social media and our fast food nation um ideology, a lot of people do have my cell phone number, and I do try to make myself available as much as possible. But don't forget, we are business owners, we're humans too. So sometimes you got to leave a message and wait for a phone call back. I
Mhm.
like to talk about that because as a society, we're really straying away from that. And
Yeah.
I know I've done it. Oh, if this pizza place doesn't pick up right now, I'm just gonna call the next one and go get pizza
Hmm.
somewhere else, even if I'd prefer the first one, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right. We're
so we have to,
impatient. We got to
yeah,
get
yeah,
back to checking in
yes.
on
So
ourselves, checking in on our neighbors, you know.
right, we have. So you can call our phones, you can call our office phone numbers. We have our website, we have our social media. You
Mhm.
make an initial contact. I promise you, we'll get back to you within 24 hours, if not immediately. Um, and we're more than happy to take on. We're always taking on new patients. Carol
Yes.
will tell you, even if I have a full schedule, I'll figure it out.
And
Even
you
if
do
I
the
got
you do the
So we do
DOT?
DOT exams. That's also a big part of my business. We
Yep.
offer chiropractic, nutrition, behavioral health, and massage services. In addition, we have medical marijuana service certification, and I do DOT medical exams. So in America, if you drive a truck, if you drive passengers, or if you drive equipment that's more than 20,000 pounds, you have to have a specific exam that
Mhm.
goes along with your driver's license, and it has to be from a national certified doctor, which I do.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again so much
Yes, thank
for
you, Carol.
bringing
Thanks
the
for inviting me.
vibe, bringing the
Thank
talk, bringing the recovery, bringing the purpose, and bringing the results, right? And the results are really in the magic of everything that you shared today. So again,
I
thank you
appreciate it.
everyone for listening in on us today. My name is Carol Cruz. Thank you for this episode of Cruising on the Edge. Stay aligned, stay grateful, and keep cruising. So